I'll never forget Shaq for that, even if he gives me a tough time on TNT for shooting threes.
Explain why it was important for your parents to relocate from LA to Oregon.
I think it was overall just the ease of living when you talk about where my parents wanted to raise kids. My dad played at the University of Oregon, always loved Portland, so I think the move up to the Northwest was pretty easy for them, even though most of our family on both sides is from Southern California. But if you've ever been to Oregon or know the Portland area well, there's so much nature. The public schools are some of the best in the country, and it's one of the places that I just continue to pay homage to and love going back to and visiting my closest friends, seeing people and just feeling the essence of what Portland and what Oregon's all about.
You wanted to play football when you were a kid back in the day. What did you say to your parents when you found out you couldn't be quarterback, about the position you then wanted to play?
Well, it was more so about where I'm from, just outside of Portland, Lake Oswego. I think they do this in a lot of places because it's such an advantage when you have a height and weight, no height and weight limit. So for me, I would have to play, linebacker. I would have to play the line, something of that sort. So I couldn't actually carry the ball or handle the ball. So I would have had to, get somewhat under the weight limit in order to play quarterback. So they said, and it put it out of the realm of possibility to even be quarterback. But as I said, my dad took me down to the painted area and showed me. He said, "Hey, listen, you idolize Shaquille O'Neal, you idolize Charles Barkley, guys like that, position you're going to play as you get older." And he said, this is your football down here. So make your mark down here, work from the game from the inside out, and everything else will fall into play. But pretty much basketball is going to be what you're going to do.
I think also, your mom was a nurse, but you jokingly put on pads at some point, and then
it was
your mom just told you she wasn't having it?
Yeah, it was my senior year of high school, actually, and I had just a really good relationship with somebody who trained the football team. So I put on pads and walked into the locker room after one of their practices and was like, yeah, I'd think about playing. I'd toy with the idea of that. And my parents got wind of it and said, if you ever do that, we're going to drive onto the field and snatch you up, and that's going to be it. So I was like, okay. Understood.
Yeah. How many no-hitters and perfect games did you throw?
A handful of no-hitters, and then I had one perfect game. I was a pretty good pitcher. I grew up watching pretty amazing pitchers throughout the MLB, but my favorite was Randy Johnson. The fact that he was 6'10", he was a lefty, he had the look with the mullet and the mustache, but the Mariners were my team, and if you grew up in the Pacific Northwest with when they had Griffey, they had Edgar Martinez, Jay Buhner, they ended up having a young Alex Rodriguez. Like, those were the teams.
So then why retire from baseball before you ever reach high school?
I think my dad saw the writing on the wall, and basketball was my first love. It wasn't too hard of a transition for me, but it was something that was a little tough because I loved the idea of mano-a-mano pitching. It's all resting on your shoulders. But had I been left-handed, I don't know if I'd be sitting here today. I might be, playing for the Dodgers or playing for the Rays right now. Who knows? But I think basketball was it really offered an opportunity for me to go professional, and that was my dream, was to make it to the NBA.
How true is it that you wanted NBA videos instead of toys as a kid?
Very true. Just like I always wanted Shaq basketballs. I was part of the Shaq fan club, and they'd send back the letters and all the stuff and the VHS tapes in the mail, and I actually thought it was coming from him. It's like when I found out it wasn't, it was almost like learning other things that you do when you grow up. So,
but then you actually met him, and the first time you met him actually impacted how you treat fans
100%.
Later in life, right?
No, it was crazy because it was a big moment in my life. We got access to downstairs because my dad had a media pass, but prior to that, my dad ran into Shaq on the elevator and said, "Hey, listen, my son is a huge fan of yours, maybe your biggest fan. Do you mind saying hi to him if you see him, in the locker room or in the tunnel?" So fast forward, we go underneath the tunnel. We're right outside the Orlando locker room, and here comes Shaq. Everybody's grabbing on him, and my dad, 6'9", taps on his shoulder. And, he runs by, and it's my brother and I. We got our jerseys on, and my dad said, well, at least you got to see Shaq. And we thought, that was pretty cool. It was like a very small, minor letdown. But then he stops. I think it registered in his brain that, hey, that's the guy that I spoke to earlier today. They must have been coming back from shoot around, turns around and like, I feel like everybody has their Shaq moment, but for me, how he treated my brother, how he treated myself, how he treated my father, he didn't have to do that. And I felt like that really, leading to today, whether it be on or especially off the floor, especially how I treat kids, like that was a big moment for me, and I'll never forget Shaq for that. Even if he gives me a tough time on TNT for shooting threes.